I'll call this meeting to order, Community Involvement for February of 2020. Thank you everyone for being here. John will not be here tonight, and Tia is not feeling well, so she won't be here either. We'll get started for member input. We don't have any guests tonight, so we'll move on to the minutes from January 2020. We don't have a quorum tonight. We only have 3 members here, so we technically can't vote on it. But is there any questions or concerns about the minutes from last month? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our committee name and mission statement discussion. And Kim will be part of this discussion. We wanted to invite Kim to our meeting tonight to see what input she has about our committee and how we can possibly market our committee in a better way. So does anybody have any questions to start off with Kim?
I researched the name.
Okay, go ahead.
I just look around.
Yeah.
I just was searching like what would be a good name instead of community involvement. Something came out like Community Affairs Committee. Mm. It's more like a positive kind of, and it might tie up with how we want to change part of the mission. Because we're talking about the things in the community, involving the residents, doing stuff I was looking at the description of the committee is still in the website, where we're planning for the future needs of the members in relation to the changing demographics and stuff. So that's my spill in it.
All right. Thank you, Marissa.
You have any ideas for a name that would?
Well, I know we used to be called youth.
Young residents.
Young residents. And then we changed it so we could include everybody. Are you mostly concerned about, you aren't getting more members on the committee, or you're not getting traction in the community? I'm not real sure what the question is.
Right. We are struggling to get members to apply to be on this committee. We've had 4 for the past, I think, 6 months now. And we used to have a pretty good number, but a lot of people had resigned from the committee late 2018, early 2019.
Okay.
So we're trying to build it back up. And we've had discussions on our mission statement and what this committee really should do.
And did you come to any conclusion on that, or are you still talking through that?
We're going through that right now.
Okay.
But then it came up last month about our name, so I think we want to make sure that we have the right name before we go into a mission statement and get more members.
Okay. I know from other committees, that I've been involved with, word of mouth is the biggest way to get committee people. And you're a small committee, so the onus is on just a few people, which is really tough to do. But that's really, with Facebook and finding people who are into volunteering. I know Stephen Burke, is that how you pronounce
Steve
his
Burke.
last name? He had put something on Facebook at one point asking, what do people do as volunteers? And it was a whole laundry list of people who said, this is what I do. And I think it was on Positively Bella Vista, but I don't remember for sure, Dylan. Mm. But that would be a great resource, because you've got all those people who do volunteer things. Maybe they would be willing to also help with your committee.
That's right. We have mentioned Positively Bella Vista in the past about see what they think. So.
And I think it's going to be, you're going to have to talk to them in person.
Right.
Because it's harder to say no when you're talking face to face.
That's right.
But, I'm not 100% convinced that a name is going to make a change in the name is going to make a difference.
See, Kim, I think that but that's kind of secondary to, because right now it doesn't really reflect much at all.
The mission statement.
Well, and also the name. The mission statement, as well as in the bylaws, the description of the committee, and the current mission statement aren't very clear about what the committee is supposed to do. You know, there's some language around volunteerism, and of course we do support 2 community events, the coat drive and then tailgate and fireflies. But that's only 2 things during the year. So, you know, the question is, you know, why do we function beyond those 2? We could be a community event committee, for that matter, if that's all we're going to do. You know, talked about fostering volunteerism. We talked earlier about, you know, how do we interface with the city? You know, is the city doing anything? How do we make sure that we're addressing the needs of the entire demographic? Not just, maybe, not just the amenity needs or amenity management and so forth. It's kind of, it's really, at first I had an idea about, well, you know, there's a lot of resources, especially with younger families coming in, and there are, or may be, some resource needs not necessarily associated with the POA, but with the community. You know, how do you interface? How do you get services from, you know, Arkansas Human Services folks? I don't know. I'm just kind of struggling with some purpose. I mean, from my perspective.
Yeah, and I think, I've been here 3 years as of today. I think we've been struggling with this committee since the day I started. So I feel your frustration. I don't know how to solve that, but I think the events that you do are great. Maybe there's something you could do with, you know, lakes. You know, they have a kids fishing derby. That gets to younger people and to kids. Maybe there's something you could combine with them. Maybe you work with recreation on, well, Easter egg hunt's pretty much a solid event, but, you know, is there something you could do? You know, I don't know. I honestly, at this point, I think you need to really decide, is this really a viable continuation? Besides your 2 events, which I think are wonderful. Because there's a lot of volunteer things going on out there. And I'm a CASA volunteer, so when you talk about different services for the state of Arkansas, I can tell you exactly where you go for that. But that is like this big, you know, there's no way you could be an expert on that. So, you know, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, but I really think it's probably about time to decide, what is it we want to take forward, you know?
If the decision is not to go forward, the 2 events that the committee does could be moved under rec.
Oh, you're asking the wrong person there.
I know. I was
Shift
thinking.
over to Kathy.
Yeah.
Well, and Joan, I mean.
Yes.
I mean, you could, fireflies and tailgating, aren't you pretty much
I pretty much handle.
running that anyway?
That anyway.
And the
And
coat
the coat
drive,
And the coat
we
drive.
could really, even as employees, we could take
The
that
coat
on.
tribe can be handled as pretty much the way it's handled already because it's through a lot of the POA facilities. But also, you know, Argus Bank and a lot of other places help out in Allen's with that too, though, for letting us.
Because we've even talked about internally being able to do some employee community things,
Mhm.
so, and people were very responsive to the school drive, school supply drive, and to the Coke drive.
Mhm.
And as far as advertising it, we already do that for you guys, so it wouldn't be anything.
Do you have
Different.
any ideas, Dylan?
I mean, I'm up to any discussion. I don't have any more ideas at the moment.
Where does Joan get all her volunteers for, what do they call it, that she does over at the park?
Play in the park?
That one.
Oh, well, that's a lot of employees.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
A lot of rec, mostly.
yeah, we, it's almost all of us, that work it and help plan and organize that.
Well, I guess from what I've heard, and I guess just have been feeling, I guess I'm at the point where, you know, are we viable?
Yeah.
Are we needed? Can we, instead of serving on a committee, volunteer for the activities that are already in
Right.
place?
Yeah.
Certainly,
Yeah.
that can definitely happen.
And so, you know, less bureaucracy the better.
Yeah, and we never want to lose volunteers.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's maybe you could have some of us volunteer to be volunteer grabbers. But, you know, I'm not trying to, I just don't, if we try and expand our activities, not the events necessarily, it's gonna take a lot more people.
Yeah.
And
And-
yeah, and 70. We've been here 6 months.
Well, you know, and I'm
And more
thinking,
people join.
yeah,
Yes,
And
it's tough.
we don't even have people come to attend our meetings to address, like, as I look through, like, the website, it said the committees are supposed to analyze problems and concerns of the association members and identify them and present them to the board. Well, as long as I've been here, we've never had a person come and address our committee, you know, about certain issues that we can
Right.
bring to the board. I mean, all we've talked about are the things that we're doing, you know, the events that we're doing, and so, and we haven't gotten anybody willing to volunteer
When you're
to
not
this
tied
committee.
to a specific amenity, I think it's tough
yes.
Yeah.
to get people.
Yeah,
And even
Involved.
looking at the survey that was done,
Mhm.
there's nothing in that survey that suggests that there's a need or desire for anything beyond
Yeah.
what exists.
Yeah, it was more about how the facilities are. What do you think of the assessment fee at that current moment?
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Kathy, you've been quiet, what do you think?
Well, and I understand, you know, the name change may or may not help, but like, there is recreation committee, there's lakes committee,
Yeah,
there's
golf
golf
committee.
committee, and they're very easy to distinguish what they are doing.
Right.
And I think some of our problems with, we're not attracting anybody to this because no one really knows what we're about. I mean, we do some nice things with the coat drive, and the Fireflies and Tailgates is a fun event. I
Mhm.
mean, those are two really nice things, but we're not doing anything to attract people to come to the meetings.
yeah.
I mean,
To
I
address.
almost feel like we would have to do something like invite them for, coffee and donuts or coffee and cookies, or do something to attract people to actually come so they can, if we get more people here, then you have more people than just us throwing ideas around.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we have to do something to, to draw the community to come here, not just streaming.
I just don't even know what questions to ask. I mean, that's the dilemma for, you know, for me, and it goes back to mission statement and purpose. I guess going back to the bylaws and, you know, the statements made there about what the purpose is of our committee, you know, the only thing that really stuck out was volunteerism. And after, you know, listening to, you know, John last meeting and, you know, Kim now, it seems like there's a lot going on, and to what end would we take on some volunteer engagement, I guess, or I don't know.
Well, there's so many organizations
Yes.
within Bella Vista and around the area that have volunteers. I mean, I'm involved in 3 more groups, and we're struggling too. I'm like, there's people who don't want to come. I'm like, they're members, but they don't even want to volunteer and be there to do stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they want to be part of it, but they don't want to do the work. The young people will say, oh, I'm raising my family, we have all this sports thing. I'm like, I don't have time to go to meetings, I have, you know, but they want to be involved when there's something going on, but they don't want to do the work, you know. And as I said, I've seen it in the organizations I'm joining right now, or I'm in, that we're having like difficulty even getting people to join, you know. Then the older people like say, oh, I've done that already. I don't have I want to just like take it easy and stuff. I don't want to commit for 3 years, you know, like 3 years in that committee, you know. And so, I don't know. Maybe, like I said, like I get confused with the activities myself, because like we have like we went to the quarterly meet and greet. Okay, so who takes care of that? Which committee takes care of that? Is that recreation?
No.
Or is that just, so is it,
Just a bunch of volunteers.
That's
So-
Sorensen.
Yeah, Debbie
so that's what I'm
Sorensen
saying.
does
So that's
that.
kind of like similar to what we should be doing if we were the person, like when you say the new residents, or, you know, like people who are new to the area, that would be our responsibility, is to be involved in meeting the new people, telling them what's going on, you know. But there's already a group that's doing that. That's not even part of our committee. And so I get confused with who's doing what sometimes. And even the people probably get confused. I'm like, who's responsible for this, except for, you know, the lakes, the golfs, and the recreation committee. And even when you say recreation, it's kind of broad too. And then the POA also has these craft fairs and business fairs and all those different things that's going in Reardon, or the flea in the park. So
POA
who's,
though.
oh, is that
Those
POA,
are-
or is
no,
that
those
different
are-
organization? So,
Those are the ones I do.
okay, so is that,
The business one.
Oh, but not the business.
Yeah.
But I do the spring bazaar and I do the Christmas bazaar.
but
through-
that's a
through
POA,
That is.
Through Reardon, yes.
okay, so that's a POA activity.
Mhm.
And so, how does that, I'm like, with our group, we're a committee within the POA organization. So, I'm like, kind of gets confusing, who's doing what.
I guess my question would be to the board, are we needed?
Yeah.
And if so, for what? And I'm not, you know, it's kind of like trying to find a divining rod, having a divining rod, and trying to find something to divine.
Yeah, like,
But,
where we're not overlapping, you
it
know.
will not, I mean, even if this committee is no longer in existence, it will not decrease my enthusiasm for participating, you know, being a help where I can be.
Yeah.
And that may seem more attractive to people in terms of additional or new volunteers, is instead of, you know, even though this is really not much of a commitment as it stands, you know, to a certain date and time
Yeah.
each month. So, I think, for me, the ball's in the board's court.
Is that something that we could probably come to the board meeting and ask and get opinion of the board? Is that something that could be put on the agenda?
Steve.
Probably the
Go ahead,
work
Mary.
session would be a good
Good one.
venue for that. which
Okay.
is-
Mhm.
Okay.
And it's usually in the morning, 9 o'clock.
Any
Yeah,
input?
the work session is at 9 o'clock
Okay.
on the third
Third Thursday.
Thursday.
Is the 20th this month?
Have we ever done anything that actually entices people to want to come? You know, to invite them for, like I said, you know, coffee, tea, lemonade, cookies, donuts, any of that stuff? Because around here, that
What are we
gets
inviting
people
them for, Kathy?
to meet and, you know, to find out, and then you actually have more people, then you can talk about more stuff than just amongst ourselves.
Kathy, do you mean invite them to an actual meeting or something outside of the meeting?
Well, it doesn't have to be here. I mean, you could make it at another location.
Like a meet and greet, kind of like just
Yeah.
to introduce
Yeah, just
ourselves
to
and see,
introduce
hey
ourselves.
guys, we're here. You know, we do this kind of stuff in the community, and are you guys
And what do
interested?
we do? I mean, that's, I'm not gonna.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Please.
This was mentioned earlier. Who does the Easter egg hunt?
We do PRA.
Is it Recreation Committee then?
It's Recreation Department does.
The department, committee doesn't really do anything. Recreation committee, do they?
Well, that was sort of my
No,
question,
no,
yeah. Because I think that's,
Not, the Recreation Committee doesn't do it, the actual Recreation Department.
okay.
We work on it.
Okay. You know, to me, it sounds like what you had said is that some of these committees that are very active are tied directly to an amenity, you know.
Right.
So the fishing derby, I assume, is lakes.
Lakes,
Mhm.
right.
And then, of course, the golf tournaments and then whatever. But, you know, there's probably various amenities out there that aren't necessarily tied to a committee at this point that it seems like it's either grow or we've done the best we can, but here we are.
Yeah.
Type of approach. The ones that are done here, the Fireflies and then the coat drive is, as far as I know, is spectacular and well attended and very successful and
Very much.
would be very much missed by the community.
Oh, I agree with that.
Yeah. And my
However-
feeling was, you know, the tailgate and Fireflies, I mean, you know, the tailgates, I know from the last time I volunteered there, people think, you know, I'm gonna do my tailgate and so they have that idea, but, you know, we have tons of parks. They're ours, and maybe, you know, just as an expansion thing, let's, you know, think about that. You know, I don't know about the name, the involvement, but community activities or events or what have you, and then expand the list. But I think you really got to tie this to an amenity, would be my feeling, as opposed to something very nebulous. Community involvement, exactly what does that mean, as everybody seems to be thinking.
I don't think there are any amenities out there that are not already covered by the recreation committee. Obviously, golf does golf, but on the rec committee, each member is responsible for one or two amenities.
Right, they go and they look at it and
Make
report
sure
on
it's-
it.
Yeah.
You know, what I was sort of thinking is, you know, have something at Granton, have something at London Park, have, in other words, miniature fireflies and tailgates. I don't know. Just tossing it out as an idea that it seems to me it's either, you know, expand or here we are. So, but I think the idea of tying it to an amenity would be fabulous. Or all the amenities that aren't, you know, there's the trail events, for example. There's one, I don't know where that came from, the lady who led it, and
Oh, where she was hiking?
the hiking,
That's in
right.
the
And
newspaper.
if there's,
Yeah, like a hiking.
there's a lot of volunteers there and lots of information,
Yes, there is.
so. So I don't know about the name, and I don't know about the mission, but those, you know, community events, and then, hey, we got a hike every month. We have a park activity every month. And then you got your big one with the fireflies one.
I think a good idea would be to get feedback from the board this month at the work session. Thoughts on that, Marissa, Janet?
When?
Thoughts on that, getting feedback from the board, if we can get on the agenda? If that's okay to do.
Oh, of course.
And that way we could get feedback from the board, and then we can take that feedback and bring it back to our meeting in March. And we can bring up the ideas that we've discussed at that meeting. Any thoughts or more thoughts on that?
Well, you can come up with something for the spring, some kind of an activity to get people more interested and invite them to that. And then you can make a discussion and let them know what we do for the next event for the fireflies and tailgates and get more volunteers
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
We were talking about that movie, remember?
Right.
And like we talked about it a couple meetings, but we never really decided if we're gonna do it.
And we can utilize the Reardon
like,
facility.
when John
You
was
know,
here-
for inviting people, I've got lots of room.
So, I mean, we just need to kind of, I guess, decide if we want to do that first. Try to see the response of, you know, the people. What's, like, we're having a movie and just popcorn and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there, we have the new activity card, so this is the community activity group.
We can get with you, Kathy, and see what a possible date we could have Reardon for a movie night. And that could be our first, like, meet and greet for our committee.
Probably either the end of April or early May before school ends would be you know, before finals. Spring break is early, I think it's like March. Everybody will be gone on spring break, you know that. So we want when everybody's here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's in between spring break and end of school will be probably the best time. And then we have our fireflies in June.
June 20th
I
this year.
have a child graduating from high school, so I might be a little busy.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, probably end of April, around that part, because when graduation will be.
Well, I've also have the spring bazaar,
Oh,
the kids activity sign up. I've got, I also have the Easter egg hunt, which is exactly 1 week after that. So April's pretty tied up for
okay,
me.
so probably May before, middle of May.
May 16th is the high school graduation.
Okay.
We'll take a look at some dates.
Yeah, well,
Maybe towards the end of May, I'm free then. always come up with a date and have availability, but you would just have to
Well-
maybe not have me.
Yeah, I'm like, if the space is available,
Big girl pants
and then
Do
that's
it.
when we kind
and
of
play
have
little
people.
Kathy.
I can provide the space.
Well, and I
if
think
you-
John, John's indicated that he's more than willing to,
Yeah. They have
pull
the,
that off.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, John was.
he has a screen, he has the,
Oh, but then it comes to, yeah, I'm gonna have to be there because I have to lock up the building. So,
I'm sure we can find someone else with keys.
well, I run the facility though.
It's true. You can delegate.
Well, let's pursue that and see if there's, how the logistics work
Will
out.
it be
Yeah.
too cold outside? We were talking about blowing springs, remember? Or were you here? We were talking about blowing
Yeah.
springs, wasn't it? I mean, it's just like you did, but is it still still cold during that time?
Yeah, April it can be a tricky month. It can be really warm or it can be really cold, especially at night. And even early May. I think we play it safe and have something inside. Then maybe later on in the summer, we can have something at Blowing Springs, like in August. So we'll try to get a date for that, and then we'll still come to the board on the 20th if they can get it on the agenda for that day. That'd be 2 weeks from today. And we can. Well, it'd be hard for me to come because it's at 9 o'clock. But I can try to be here.
When's it?
It is.
Just so there's somebody prepared to make a presentation to the
Yeah.
board.
I'm sure one of us will be happy to do some type of presentation or set it up, and then maybe someone else can present it.
Okay.
That'd be a good forum to have to get their opinion.
Well, the first thing, let me generate the minutes, which will reflect the discussion. And then maybe we can have some electronic discussion about, what is it? What are the real questions we're asking?
Yeah.
And particularly with the last one about, expanding the activities. And we might end up being maybe maybe we're a subcommittee. I mean, I'm just thinking out loud.
Subcommittee
Whatever
of the
gets the job
Recreation
done.
Committee.
Okay. Good thoughts. And anything else before we move on to the last item? Thank you, everyone. We'll go on to the more discussion on fireflies and tailgates for this year. Kathy has reserved Blowing Springs for June 20th of 2020 with a rain date of June 27th, 2020. Last month we discussed some early items on it about getting more volunteers and how we're going to get those volunteers. And then when it comes to the parking, we need to make sure we have cones and walkie-talkies this time. For the walkie-talkies, for the communicate for the parking and which spots are available. And then we'll be able to get hot dogs and give those up for free like we did last year. Other than that, I don't know how deep we want to get into the discussion on fireflies and tailgates because it is still about 4 months out. And last year we invited Tommy Lee to come I think he came to the last 2 meetings up until the fireflies and tailgates, and he had some good discussion with us. He's the head of the food and beverage, I think they call it. And I know it's advertised on Facebook every year, and then it gets put into the newsletter through the email.
I guess in the newsletter, we could ask for volunteers
Yeah.
and then give a name of a person that they need to contact.
Yes. And we could probably start doing that as early as March or April to give people, 90 days heads up.
Well, it would be useful, and we also talked about having a jobs list that we basically say we need somebody to do this, would you
Yes.
be willing? And commit to whenever, I mean, some of the work, I guess, is, I wasn't there last year.
Yeah, me too.
It's new, but.
So maybe if we need a list of what things need to, what are the things to do that needs volunteers, like parking, food, setting up, all those different things. How many people do you need for each group?
Well, we did games and activities.
Yeah. So who's in
And,
charge?
of course, and the food for the hot dogs, and the parking wasn't a real big issue for us. It was handled pretty well.
Yeah.
But each person had an assignment already, so it worked out. It was really smooth last
Yeah.
year.
Just probably one more golf cart that works. Right, Steve?
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Well, we'll make sure that gets done.
Yeah. That would be good.
Yeah, it would. Any more thoughts on that or concerns?
Are we just, because I wasn't there last year.
Yeah.
So you had movie for the kids, and then you had
Yeah.
food.
We had Adam play some music
Mhm.
before the movie
Okay.
started.
Yeah. So, for those people like you want to invite, like to perform, like you said, you had that Bluebird group. I'm like, should we kind of start contacting people? Are we asking them to pay for tables or for places? If they want to, I don't know, do people sell things or just show kids how to do things? Because I said I wasn't there, so I didn't
Yeah.
know what other activities do you have.
I think the activities that we had was pretty good with the games, the movie, the music, and then even people brought their own activities to do also, and it was just a really good time.
Yeah, the Crayola
Yes,
table.
Mhm.
yes, Tia and John brought that.
But there may also be people in the community who maybe
Some-
juggle, do magic tricks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Come and join.
So if you have thoughts like that, Marissa or anybody else, just email and we'll see what we can do.
So it's more centered towards the kids.
Yes,
Okay.
because once it gets dark, of course they want to catch some fireflies, and then after that, then everybody goes home.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't too late last year, so.
Good event.
Any more thoughts on that? We'll pick it back up in March.
Okay.
So with that, that was the last item of discussion or on the agenda. Did anybody else have any thoughts or concerns for this meeting? All right, we'll go on to the announcements. The POA board meeting, the regular session is on February 27th, 2020. And then our next community involvement meeting will be on March 5th of 2020. And then Tailgates and Fireflies will be on June 20th of 2020. And with that, we are adjourned because we can't vote to adjourn. So this is
You're
it.
saying buzz off.
Thank you, everybody.